Hey everyone, welcome to the Brews Less Traveled Beer Club and podcast. Today was such a cool episode. We tasted probably the most unique beer we've ever tried on the podcast. We tasted the Hawaiian Barbecue Pale Ale from Crafty Bastard Brewing in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I was completely amazed at how they got this beautiful kind of grilled pineapple flavor without any adjuncts in it. And we spoke with Aaron McClain, the co-founder and brewmaster there at Crafty Bastard. This was such a great episode, and there's also a very cool story about an alleged Foo Fighter concert in their tap room. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to the Brews Less Traveled podcast and beer club. I am your craft beer loving host, Molly Lamb. We are back in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I am joined with my awesome co-host for the month of September, Mike, aka the Pale Male. Mike, you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. Great to see you, Molly. You know, I wanted to bring this up because look what I'm wearing.
You got the apron.
It's an apron. Look at that.
I used mine today. I was homebrewing and I used it.
Did you? Now, this is a nice apron. Not only it talks about Knoxville and the Brews Less Travel, but it's got pockets.
Yeah, this is a good inclusion. This is one that you can definitely use again and again. And I like this because it kind of represents Tennessee barbecue, which is a little different from other styles of barbecue. Tennessee is like a thicker, sweeter sauce, whereas like the Carolina is like a thin, vinegar-based kind of type of barbecue. And speaking of barbecue, we're going to be drinking the Hawaiian Barbecue Pale Ale from Crafty Bastard today. This is going to be the perfect complement to a barbecue lunch or dinner since it's a smoked style beer. It's going to complement it really well. And we have a great guest tonight. We have Aaron McClain, who's the owner and brewmaster at Crafty Bastard. He will be coming on in just a few minutes. And I am kind of ready to crack open a beer. Mike, you want to go ahead and crack open this Hawaiian Barbecue Pale Ale from Crafty Bastard?
Oh, yeah. I've been eyeing it since we sat down, and it just looks, you see that the condensation is coming off the can. I'm just like, please, gotta have it.
Oh, man. The aroma is great. I definitely get that fruit, that pineapple. All right. Cheers, guys. This is delicious. Wow. This is really good.
Oh,
it really walks that line between that fruit hop and then that nice smoky malt. It's like the perfect balance.
Wow. That's special.
It's super unique. And this pale ale clocks in at 6.6% ABV. It's got 65 IBUs. So it's a little high on the international bitterness unit scale, but I'm not getting a ton of that perceived bitterness. It's very well balanced. Yeah. It's one of those beers you need to almost pause for a second to take it all in. This is maybe one of my favorite beers we've tasted.
I'm getting like that smokiness off the nose, like seriously, like firewood.
Yeah.
And then you get the hoppy, fruity flavor up front, and then the mouthfeel. And once on the finish, it's like that smoke again.
Absolutely.
Comes back.
There's, not to sound like an annoying craft beer person, but this is a very complex beer. You kind of get like fruit smoke, and it's coming from those late edition hops, I'm sure. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I really get that smokiness at the finish.
And it's this nice, amazing. It really is amazing. And this is a nice light orange hued beer. It's got a beautiful color to it. And it's kind of like biting into a roasted pineapple, I would say. Like if you grill a pineapple, that's kind of what I'm getting from it. It has a delicious sort of tropical bouquet from those late edition hops I was talking about, balanced by a really savory sort of smokiness imparted by almost like their cherry wood smoked malt that they're using. So with this beer, definitely expect something different. It's not your average beer. It is not your average run-of-the-mill pale ale. Cheers to Crafty Bastard, man. This is awesome.
It's not a beer for beginners.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's not a gateway beer. This is not like to coax you into craft beers. This is one that's like, because that smokiness at the end is very unexpected. And if you haven't had that before, it might be a little surprising, but I love it. I mean, as a beer guy, as a beer sidekick, I love this, man.
Absolutely. Me too. I'm really, really loving it. Yeah. Hawaiian barbecue pale ale. That's the one we are tasting, and it is super good. Yeah. Not a beer for beginners for sure. It took me a minute to get into the smoked beer. I kind of was a little late to the game on that, but now I am digging it. Cool.
I mean, when I sometimes I get disappointed if something says it's smoked and then you get like a subtle smokiness.
Yep.
That is not the case here. This is right on the money with the smoke.
And sometimes I notice with smoked beers, sometimes they're almost too light, like the body is too light, like they can be almost a little watered down. But yeah, this one has a really nice body to it and a great effervescence. So you get this really kind of refreshing mouthfeel happening too. I bet this would be killer with food, with the brisket.
Oh, now I want some brisket with this. Absolutely.
I know. Doesn't that sound good? Cool. Well, guys, while you kick back and enjoy this incredible beer, let me share a couple facts about Knoxville with you all. The city calls Labor Day Boomsday, which is named after the fireworks celebration that takes place over the Tennessee River and also includes a waterfall of fireworks. I would have thought Boomsday would have been 4th of July. I'm not going to lie, not Labor Day, but that's super cool. I love fireworks, so that sounds really fun. Also, Knoxville is an international port. So if you wish to travel up the Gulf of Mexico or the Great Lakes, this is the place that you can catch your boat.
How about that? Because the Tennessee River cuts right through the city, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And it's also surrounded by 7 lakes itself in Knoxville. So it's definitely you wouldn't think of it as a port being in Tennessee, but it certainly is. Yeah.
I know. Absolutely. I go kayaking all the time on the Tennessee River now because I live in Tennessee. And that's one of my favorite things to do. Grab a beer. I had a great blood orange IPA out on the kayak. I was yakking up the river. And that's how I spent my day off yesterday. I was kayaking with a nice blood orange IPA. The other week when I went kayaking, I got a black IPA. It was really tasty, but it was a little too heavy for a kayak beer. It was like really, really, really bitter, resiny, like super deep resin. It was tasty, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to stick with the lighter ones when I'm on the kayak, like a blonde ale, maybe a Dunkel, Pilsner. I was looking for a Goza, but I found the blood orange IPA and it stopped me dead in my tracks. I didn't get a lot of the blood orange flavor on it. I was a little disappointed, but it was still a really good IPA. But yeah, like a nice like Goza would be perfect. Let's learn a little bit more about Crafty Bastard. So they opened in 2015. These guys have 2 Knoxville locations, downtown and on the west side. And Crafty Bastard creates both traditional and mischievous beers, as we're seeing tonight.
Yeah.
Carefully crafted with locally sourced ingredients, mad science, and a nice middle finger to the mundane. I love that. They actually have a pickle beer that I tried when I was there. It tasted like straight up pickle juice. It was good though. For me, just a taste of that was kind of enough, but it was a really cool beer to try just because it was something super different and surprisingly refreshing. And apparently it started out as kind of not like a joke, but they were sort of like, let's throw this out there. People are going to love it or hate it. Let's just be weird. And then it stuck around and it's become a little bit of a beer to go see and try when you're there.
I've seen them out there. I know that I've had plenty of cucumber beers, like cucumber sours, which can be very nice, or cucumber goza. I've had that before. But there's the pickleback, which is a thing in bars where you, what do you do? You do a shot and pickle juice at the same time?
You do a shot of whiskey, right, and then you chase it with pickle juice. And it sort of just cuts that fire from the whiskey. Yeah, I love a good sour beer, though. I had Sequench from Dogfish Head. I had that last night. I do a little music booking on the side. I manage some artists, and I had 2 of one artist I manage and a friend of mine play last night in Chattanooga at this cool little kind of like English pub tavern place. And I was crushing a couple sour beers, and that was a nice way to spend the evening last night.
You've just taken over Chattanooga.
I can't seem to just relax. I keep being like, I'm going to have a relaxing weekend. And then I just don't. But they played a great show. It was super fun. There wasn't a ton of people there, but there was a definite kind of just like magical intensity in the room. Everyone was singing along, requesting songs. It was great. I love live music. I have been ready for that to come back. And yeah, if you guys like Americana, kind of country Americana, check out James Reed and Lance Rogers. They're phenomenal. Very, very cool. But let's go ahead and welcome on our guest this evening, Aaron McClain, owner and brewmaster at Crafty Bastard. Aaron, how are you?
Doing well.
Awesome. Aaron, it's good to see you. We always love to ask our guests their craft beer origin story. Can you tell us yours, just kind of how you got started in craft beer?
Yeah, for sure. It was when I was in my early 20s, and I, like a lot of people, thought that I didn't like beer because I'd only ever had mass-produced domestic beer. A couple of friends that I had really had taken a liking to it, and were just shocked that I hadn't discovered craft beer. And they took me to a place called Sunspot in Knoxville. And that was back when $2 pints were a thing. And so every Tuesday they had $2 pints, and it was all craft beers across the board. So tried a lot of different things, some things that I didn't care for as much as some things that I absolutely loved, and was just really intrigued by the creativity that went into it, and all of the different ingredients that were being used, all these different flavor profiles that were being expressed. And I've always been the type of person that if I get really, really interested in something, I want to do it, with music or, other interests and hobbies that I have. And so just started as a hobby, and absolutely took to it like a fish to water. It's one of those beautiful things that it is a scientific project whose goal is not science. And so you have to be very grounded in times and temperatures and pHs and math and everything else like that. But at the end of the day, there's not a formula for making a great beer. A good beer, yes, but a great beer, a truly memorable beer, something that you're going to tell your friends about. Again, that's where the art comes in.
Absolutely.
And so I've always been a little left and right brained. And so it works very well for me.
That's so cool. And so what's the history of Crafty Bastard? Can you tell us a little bit more about the inception of the brewery and also how you got the name?
Yeah, for sure. And then it's cheers to everybody who's drinking the beer at home. I would love to talk a little bit more about this one specifically.
Absolutely.
So anyway, Crafty Bastard started, again, I've been homebrewing for 2 or 3 years before I had gotten into ever even thinking about it as a possibility, as doing this professionally. The really, really interesting thing is, this beer that you hold in front of you right now, hopefully, was kind of the beer that started it. It was it was the most out there beer I'd ever made as homebrewer. Obviously, I didn't start with this. I kind of did a few classic things, but then quickly started graduating to using different ingredients and different combinations of things. And had a friend who, as long as I'd ever known him, was like, I don't know how to brew beer for anything, but like I'm absolutely enamored and in love with the whole craft beer scene, and I would love to be involved in some way, and maybe help somebody get their start. And he drank this beer. I brought it to him, and he was like, "How much would you need to do this professionally?" I was like, I thought he was just joking for a minute, but I was like, "Give me a week and I'll get back to you." And I put some numbers together, and the building you see behind you now was actually the first place we looked at. It was we looked at other places as well, but I just fell in love with it. It was everything we wanted. It was the right size. It was in the right part of town. It was grungy as could be, and it's as eclectic and as weird as the beer is. So
totally, that was the vibe I got. Yeah, just like in this cool warehouse. I love the vibe at Crafty Bastard. A little grungy, a little off the beaten path, kind of unique, just like your beers, not your typical situation. I really loved the vibe there. Job well done.
But yeah, as far as the name goes, my business partner at the time, we were sitting in the Thirsty Monk in Asheville, and we were at the downstairs Belgian beer bar, and we'd come up with different names. I mean, Hellbender Brewing was the first one we came up with. We were just very, very adamant that we wanted people to know from just by looking at the name. If nothing else, no reviews, descriptions, Untapped, anything like that, just by looking at the name, that this was a place that was going to do interesting stuff. And so things like, New Knoxville Brewing Company or whatever, like we were never going to go with a name like that. Or name it after a local landmark, like Mount LeConte Brewing Company. Nothing against that or anybody who does that, but we wanted the name to be, again, as edgy as the space and the beers were going to be. Hellbender's cool because it's like, it's got this weird salamander on it and it just sounds cool, but it was already taken by a brewery in Washington, D.C. Which we felt was unfair because it's our salamander, not theirs. But so we looked, and every time we came up with a name that we kind of halfway liked, we would look and it was already taken. And so we sat at the downstairs Thirsty Monk and just shot. I said, you know what? We're going to play like a word association game almost. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. I don't care if it's stupid. I don't care. Just mystical mischief or like whatever. Just say stuff. And we're just going to go back and forth. And we went back and forth. And every now and then be like, that's okay. Write it down. And eventually I said, Crafty Bastard. And she was like, I think that's it. And she like looks it up on her phone. Is like, nope. Not taken. And then kind of draws kind of like a little, not the professionally done logo you see, but just kind of like a rough sketch of something.
Yeah.
Like that. And we never looked back from there.
I do love this logo. This man twirling his mustache, looking just, like a crafty bastard. I love it.
That's the other thing too, like a little time, like, and a lot of people, I think most people get this. Crafty Bastard is a compliment, not an insult. And so the, I had a friend in high school, and we always talked about how like words that end in Y seem to go with bastard, silly bastard, crazy bastard, lazy bastard, whatever. But the best one was Crafty Bastard. And we used to call each other that. Like it was a term of endearment, like, you crafty bastard. Like,
absolutely.
That kind of thing. And so I guess like the funny thing that ties the story all together is like that we were freshmen in high school when we were doing this. And, we didn't keep up, not for any reason, just life goes on, and anyway, actually ended up catching up with him like years and years and years later. And actually he became a professional brewer as well and has worked all over the country and is actually now, last I heard was the head brewer at Turkey Creek Smoky Mountain Brewery in Knoxville. So, but he worked in Wisconsin and Arizona and North Carolina and different places like that. But yeah, again, we did not keep in touch for years and years and years and years. And it turns out, and he came back into town one time, and this is when he was living in other places and working. And he's like, so the name. And I was like, yes, absolutely. That's where it came from.
That's okay. And just speaking of how cool your building is, I know you have a cool story about a Foo Fighters concert. Allegedly, could you tell that story?
Yeah. And so there was a second floor in there at one time. And in the 90s into the very early 2000s, it was an underground music venue, rave club. I'm sure all kinds of drugs were done in there. And in fact, I know when we first opened, there would be people sitting at the bar and would just look around, and they'd be like, I swear to God, I tripped acid here 15 years ago. And stuff like that. And it was one of those places, it was no permits, no nothing, anything like that. I mean, it was completely underground place. And it was a place where people would go when the bars closed at 3 and they wanted to keep it rolling. And yes, legend has it. And there's another local podcaster who actually wants to delve into this, that the Foo Fighters in 1995 played a show in Crafty Bastard after they played at Thompson Bowling Arena. We've done some research, and we've talked to enough people, and they have some ties around here and everything else, that it seems like it's actually very plausible. What my thought is maybe one or two of the members of the band came and hung out for a little bit. Did they actually play a full show? Who knows? But it's a very, very interesting story. I know for a fact that it was an after hours club, and lots of bands played there. And I don't know 100% for sure if they did, but we're going to try and get to the bottom of that.
That's cool. Well, yeah, Dave Grohl, what a talented guy. He went from, being a drummer in one of the best grunge bands to fronting another really incredible band. So that would just be an absolute honor to have him in your space.
Yeah,
and
sure, yeah.
I do want to hear a little bit more about the pickle beer I tried. Do you add just straight pickle juice into the, during fermentation? And what hops are used in that? I'm just really curious about that beer.
That is a Goza base. That is, has almost no hop additions whatsoever. It's 3 IBU, the tiniest little bit at the beginning of the boil and none at the end. Yeah. So no hop character to speak of. It's salty and sour like a goza should be. And so, it was one time I was like, wow, we're kind of on the way to doing a pickle. Like, I mean, it's already a little pickly. And I was like, we do a bunch of weird stuff and like, let's do a pickle beer. And so I figured out a way to do it, and expecting it to just be a one-off, a crazy thing. People would love it. People would hate it. It'd get a line out the door. It'd just be this kind of like little gimmicky thing. And that was 4 years ago. And we still make it to this day. And it's one of those things. It is a customer favorite. It is the least favorite beer of the brewers. Just because it's like,
I feel like that happens a lot.
I mean, it's pickle beer, for God's sake. Like, it's just like, whatever. But it does taste exactly like a dill pickle. If you wish, I can tell you privately, but it is a secret for right now. Okay. I'm going to keep to myself.
Gotcha. Yeah, no worries.
Wow.
There are actual pickles involved. I can tell you that.
And we have a question in the chat. Guy is wondering, he said he noticed Big Black Cow and Black Friday Kolsch on Untapped. Are you guys Steely Dan fans?
Huge Steely Dan fan.
Cool.
So there is another brewery in Knoxville, Alliance Brewing Company. They're on the south side of the river. We were the first two breweries to open to do the Nano Brewery thing. So there were some other breweries in town, but and no offense to them, but they were like, brew pubs and brewed the same 6 beers all the time, and mostly a restaurant that had food. There's like a production facility that did like 3 different beers, and there was not a place that was like really about the beer and like did new releases and did fun stuff and wasn't a restaurant first, stuff like that. Like the real like true like Nano craft brewery thing. So the first two in Knoxville were Alliance and Crafty Bastard, and we opened within 5 days of each other.
Wow.
And at that time there was like 2 or 3 other breweries, and then us, and now there's well over 20. But yeah, I think we were number 4 and 5 ish. But anyway, the head brewer over there, brewmaster Adam Engel, we had been good friends for many years before our respective breweries opened. And we were both huge Steely Dan fans, both of us. And so we've actually done 12 different collaborations over the last 6 years. And they are, always Steely Dan inspired. So there's Big Black Cow, Black Friday Kolsch. We actually did Big Black Cow, which was an Imperial milk Baltic porter, because it had to be weird, Steely Dan, right? And then we did go back, Jack, and do it again, and so we did the same beer at the other brewery and aged it in a Jack Daniel's barrel.
I love that.
Yeah, we did Hey 19 and used 19 different varieties of hops. We did Kid Charlemagne, which was this like kind of champagne inspired beer. On and on and on. Lots and lots of beers inspired by those, and we're gonna to continue to do that over the years.
Love that.
Until we run out of information.
Yeah, I like when breweries do fun kind of themes like that, or just like bars in general, and you can just kind of play around and have fun with it. It kind of gives a little bit of a story to it. I think that's really awesome. I'm going to have to listen to some Steely Dan after this. Eat some brisket, finish this beer, listen to some Steely Dan. Sounds like a good way to end the evening after this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We're definitely wanting to do Deacon Blues at some point. It's gonna be a Scotch whiskey barrel aged blueberry imperial stout. Like for those of you who might like get the reference to some of these things, it'll be
I love that. Yeah, I don't listen to that much Steely Dan, but yeah, I'm gonna have to. I want that beer though. Let's take a beer break. So our guest, Aaron, just mentioned a nano brewery. That got me thinking, what exactly is a nano brewery and how is it different from a micro brewery? So in order to be considered micro, a brewery must produce 15,000 barrels of beer or less per year and sell 75% of their beer off-site. Some microbreweries also have tap rooms or tasting rooms, but it's not a necessity in order to sell the beer off-site. So now that we're a little bit familiar with smaller scale brewing, what is the difference between a micro brewery and a nano brewery? So think about scale and sizing. The prefix nano means 1 billionth, which is even smaller than micro or 1 millionth. A nano brewery is so small, but there's actually no defined beer quantity that establishes a brewery as a nano brewery. But there is a consensus in the industry on its general meaning. Any brewery that produces beer in batches of 3 barrels or less. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I see you have the record collection there. So you have the rock and roll situation going on. You play a lot of those records through the day.
Yeah. We so how that and you see the speakers actually up there. If you move just a little bit, if you don't mind. Yeah, do you see the speakers that kind of just sat up there, like kind of there's two black boxes you see set up there, like on top of where the menu is.
Oh yeah.
Like on top of the records right there. Yeah, and so those are really, really funny story. I'll tell it really briefly. So we opened our first day. It was August 29th of 2015. There was a block party going on that day. So the entire block was completely shut down, and there was music out there, and we didn't have anything to do with it necessarily. It was just a party that was planned, and it happened to be our opening day because we were really trying to make some money. And anyway, so we opened, and they was just a line out the door the whole day. It was absolutely crazy, just absolutely nuts. And so we didn't notice. And so we opened, and I thought of everything, but the next day we opened and there wasn't a block party going on. We had no sound system, no music, no way to play any music. And I will censor myself a little bit, but one of the customers who was sitting there comes over and says, "Hey, Aaron, come over here." And he's like, "This is awkward as hell, man." Because it was just, he didn't say hell, but anyway, it was just so quiet, and you hear a pin drop. And so one of my first loves was music, and I went home and I got my PA and my record player and a handful of records and set the speakers on top and hooked up the record player and just started playing records. And I over the years ended up hiring some bartenders who had bigger record collections than I did and were more into it and everything. And we have an extraordinarily extensive and eclectic record collection, and it's fun. Customers bring us records all the time and be like, "Hey, I don't ever play these anymore, man. Just take them. Just play them when I'm in here." And so it's it's just another kind of crafty thing.
That's great. Is that part of the interview process for bartenders? And what's your vinyl collection look like?
You're not required to have vinyl to be a bartender at Crafty by any means. Just many of them do.
So we talked about the pickle beer, and we got the Hawaiian barbecue. Is there a beer in particular that's gotten any kind of really strong? What beer has gotten the strongest reaction? I mean, good or bad?
So there's two that I want to talk about briefly. Yeah, two I want to talk about briefly. The smoked beers. There's a lot of people who love them and who, I mean, they're just like, wow, this is amazing. This is out there. And then some people absolutely hate them. So what you're having, and I do, since this is the beer here, I do want to talk about this just very briefly. This is cherrywood smoked malt and Vick's Secret hops. So Vick's Secret hops I found to be like the most pineapple-y. There's lots of hops out there that have like lots of tropical character to them and pineapple notes, but this is the one that was like the most. And then it has cherrywood smoked malt instead of beechwood smoked malt. So if you've ever had like German style Rausch beers, especially ones from Germany, they generally use beechwood smoked malt, and that is more of a campfire, almost like cigarette ashy kind of like. I mean, it's ashy. I mean, it's burnt. It's smoke. And the cherrywood smoked malt is a little sweeter. It's a little rounder. It's more reminiscent of barbecue. And so this is something I did a while back. I didn't originally use Vick's Secret hops because they weren't around back then. But I was like, dude, like just like all the fruitiness from hops and this kind of like smoky background would make it like a pineapple pork, a Hawaiian barbecue, And again, like this is like my original investor, one of his absolute favorite beers, one of mine, one of his absolute favorite beers. And then some people absolutely loathe it. This is the one that people get the most excited when we put it on, and the one that the most pints get sent back. So this is one, and I kind of wanted to include it in this box for that reason. I mean, it didn't seem like there was a lot of initiates in your group. So I wanted to throw something out there that was challenging, that was most of all unique and memorable. And this beer is certainly that, if nothing else.
Definitely sent back. Ouch. I don't like that.
Well, I mean, people that say, "Hey, it's smoky." Like our bartenders are trained, and they're like, "Hey, it's smoky," just so you know.
Right.
And there's some people, like, even though this isn't, kill you to death smoke, it's a note at the end that ties very well to the hop character and everything else like that. It makes a really, really nice round experience. There are some people who just like smoky liquid, like smoking a beer. Like same thing with scotch. Like I find scotch to be absolutely delicious. It's my favorite type of whiskey, like more so than bourbon or rye or anything else like that. And I love those notes. And then there's some people, I'm sure who just absolutely find scotch putrid.
Yeah, it can be very polarizing, I think.
Yes, exactly. And so it's that same thing. So like when people aren't sending it back because it's a bad beer, they're sending it back because they hate smoke and they were too dumb to read that smoke.
They didn't get what they were ordering. Yeah. I love smoked drinks. I love like peaty, smoky scotch. And I also, there was this cocktail I had one time, it was called Smoke and Daggers in New York. And they actually like took smoke and kept it in a little vessel over the cocktail and then released it. It was beautiful. I loved it.
Now there was another beer you wanted to mention.
The one that is over the top. The one where it's like, Aaron, I've never had a bad beer from you ever. Well, I take that back. And then also the one that people were like, are you ever going to make that again? And I'm like, no. We had this beer. It was cherrywood smoked malt, just like is in this, Nelson Sauvin hops, and chanterelle mushrooms, which have this very like fruity apricot-y note, but also have some earthiness to it. And it was patterned after a meal. Like I had somebody made me this like, pork tenderloin that was braised with a white wine sauce and with chanterelle mushrooms on top. And I thought it was just creative and amazing. And I tried to recreate it in a beer. And so for the cherrywood smoked malt, I used, for the porky, the meatiness, I used cherrywood smoked malt. For like the white wine sauce, I used Nelson Sauvin. So some of y'all might be familiar with that. It's very, very white wine type of flavor you get from that hop. And for the chanterelle mushrooms, I used chanterelle mushrooms because there's nothing else like them in the world. And it tasted like a meal. Like you should read some of it's called Smoky Mountain Shroom Ale, and it has some of the most hilarious reviews on Untappd that you'll see. Tastes like gravy is one of them. And it's kind of funny because you'll see ones like, it tastes like Thanksgiving dinner, 5 stars. It tastes like Thanksgiving dinner, 1 star. Like you'll see the descriptions are all the same. It's just the ratings are all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, Untappd, it's like, Yelp, people are very picky and happy to kind of be overly opinionated. I mean, this beer had some strong reactions on Untappd. I always check out the beers on Untappd, but you guys, you're going for that. You're going for strong reactions. I love it.
Yeah. This is nowhere near our highest rated beer on Untappd. Nowhere near, actually. Just because there's so many like 1 and 2 star reviews, but there's a hell of a lot of 5s too. Mm-hmm. Like people just saying like, oh, wow, this is incredibly interesting. I've never had anything like this, really, really interesting idea. And then, but like, what I'm saying, like, 3 5s and a 1 still get you like 3.5. So average. So, and I don't care much about that. I mean, obviously I love getting good reviews and stuff like that. And it's good for the business. But like with stuff like this, I mean, it's a love or hate thing, and that's fine.
And you got the reputation to have experimental beers. And so you want to keep that up too. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I noticed that you use a lot of locally sourced ingredients. What's a big locally sourced ingredients in the Knoxville area? And by the way, I see a couple people saying, got to try that, need to find that beer. Smoky Mountain Shroom Ale was, I think, 4 years ago, and I don't think it's going to make a return. It didn't. I mean, my God, we made 1 keg of it, and we had it for like 2 months. Like, I mean, it was it was, I mean, and again, it was like 6 different people drink it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was the same 6 people that drink it, and like, they would get like an 8-ounce pour, and that was, and stuff like that. So like, I don't know. If I make it again, I will make it for myself. And it's something I would love to like include in like some kind of bag like this. But so we love to do that at our new West location. We've actually got a mural out there that was done by our artist, Alice Holman. We have several artists, our original artists who drew that beautiful logo that you see. Anyway, so we did a mural out there, and it had pine sprigs and persimmons and prickly pears and chanterelle mushrooms and pawpaws. And so those are my favorite. Those are all really cool because you can't buy them in a store. I really like the stuff that is not available in a grocery store, that has, this limited window, and it's just the terroir, if you will, of our area and of our beers. Probably my absolute favorite is Pine Sprigs. Pine sprig. So the new growth on pine trees in the spring. So specifically white pine trees. And if you ever go, out walking in the woods or you see them in somebody's backyard, it's the new, like it'll be, about yay long, and you'll see it in the spring. And it's this very like fluorescent green, like new growth on the tree. You can't use bark or needles or any old parts of the tree because it's too sappy and resinous. So it tastes like pine salt. But this new fresh growth, it's citrusy, has notes of cherry, and only like a background note of pine. Like when you taste the beers that we use them in, you would never in a million years guess that it was pine unless I told you. And then you're like, yeah, I can kind of see that. But it is this extraordinarily complex, but like super quaffable drink when we do it. It's one of those beers I say, like every time we use that, it is a beer that rewards your attention but does not demand it. It is a flavor that is really, really complex, and you could pick apart all the nuances you want. You could sit down and have a panel and it will reward that, but it's not so much in your face that you can't just drink it because it tastes good and shoot the shit with your friends. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you are.
Sorry.
Cool.
I mean, We're called Crafty Bastards, so
Yeah, we're already going there. No, I love it. God, you guys are so creative. It's really inspiring just to hear your story and how you create. You really go for it, and you make some incredibly unique beers. I mean, this is one of the most unusual beers I've had. And I mean that in just the best way. Yeah, the way you were able to balance the fruit, that pineapple flavor from those late edition hops, and that nice smokiness that is such a rounded smokiness, like you said, and it's not so intense. It's really beautiful.
It's not ashy. It's not burnt. It's a sweet smoke. Mm-hmm. It is. That's why we call it like Hawaiian barbecue. Yeah. And so that sweet smoke with those kind of like sweet fruity notes we use a lot of weird ingredients, and I love doing that. But one thing I also take on as a challenge is to make this beer taste like pineapple pork, and it has neither, right? I mean, this is Reinheitsgebot. Like, I mean, this is hops, barley, water, and yeast, and it tastes this freaking bizarre.
That's incredible.
I love that.
Yeah, and so like that's a thing I like doing as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. Yeah, sticking to the Reinheitsgebot German purity law, which can be very limiting for some brewers that really want to get creative with a ton of adjuncts and things like that. You were able to take that and make it your own and stick to that purity of beer and those four ingredients, but really create something, that's incredibly unique and bizarre. And I love it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's super cool.
And just to be perfectly clear, when I said Reinheitsgebot, it's not all of our beers are that way. We use all kinds of fruit and spices and all kinds of stuff like that. And I love doing that.
Pickle beer?
Pickle beer is not Reinheitsgebot. No.
And what percentage smoke malt do you shoot for?
So it depends on different beers. So this one is about 25% of the cherry wood. So that's that kind of like softer note. Wow. I mean, we've made a Rausch beer before that was upwards of 75 or 80%. And it had a blend of beechwood and cherry wood smoked malt, and a little bit of Munich and some other, I think a little bit of crystal as well. But yeah, this is as far as I remember, I think this is 2-row, a smidge of Vienna, because we wanted a little breadiness, right? Can you go for like a sandwich kind of deal? But yeah, a little bit of breadiness, a little bit of body from the Vienna. Probably only 10%, I think 25% cherry wood, and then the rest 2-row. And yeah, as you were asking before, I'd have to go back and look at the recipe. I don't know if it's entirely Vick's secret. It might have a smidge of Citra in there. But yeah, you're right. It is, and I actually do need to edit the Untapped. I was reading 65 IBUs, I believe you said, Molly.
Yeah.
I think I have backed down on that. I think what you're tasting right now is much more like 45 or 50.
Okay, cool. That makes more sense actually.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I think I backed down on the IBUs on that, and then I think it's a 15, a 5, a flame out, and a dry hop. I mean, it's hop bursted. I mean, it's definitely more kind of more West Coast style with the hopping.
Yeah.
But in the sense that it's not just all whirlpool and dry hop, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so there is there is that kind of late hop bursted end and everything else like that. But yeah, no, it's I actually haven't had this in since we sent the beer out, and I was hoping it was gonna hold up well in the can and everything else. And I'm remarkably pleased with it, actually.
We are too. And the chat has been blowing up. People are loving this beer. I think this is one of our more excitable beer drinking experiences that we've had. I mean, people are really digging it. So that's cool because, yeah, you never know when you're trying something this unique, what people are going to think. But yeah, I just loved the vibe at Crafty Bastard. I loved the beers there. I went there on the Knox Brew Tour visit that I had with them, and it was just phenomenal. I loved it. Knoxville was
it
so
Zach
great.
or Candace?
It was Candace, Ace. Yeah.
Oh, she's great. Yeah.
She's the best. That was my first brew tour I've actually ever done. And I can't stop talking about it. I had so much fun. I was really impressed with all the breweries in Knoxville. I just absolutely loved it. I had such a great time when I was visiting. So I'm curious, what is your ideal day off in Knoxville?
First of all, what is that? Second of all, first of all, okay. So I absolutely love, and I'm just going to limit it to Knoxville. There's a million amazing things around Knoxville. And actually I would say this is the surprising thing. I think for a lot of the people who, if you look at Knoxville on a map, the first thing that's going to stick out to you is it's right next to the Smoky Mountains, right? And so that is an amazing resource to have, and it's very close by. But I could not go to the Smoky Mountains for 2 years and still be absolutely enthralled. As was mentioned earlier, yeah, there's 7 lakes that surround Knoxville. There's the Smokies are just this one little segment of the Tennessee-North Carolina border, and everything south and north of it is absolutely amazing as well. There is every outdoor thing from mountain biking to regular biking to kayaking to quarries to rivers to lakes to any way you want to go outside and have fun. It is incredibly close to you, and so that is something that I do as much as possible. So I would get up. I would ride my bike down to Fort Dickerson Quarry and go to my special spot. It is a spot that is only a couple of miles from downtown, has some of the clearest, warmest, most beautiful water you will ever see. I would go down there and float probably. So earlier I was a session IPA, but I would probably float with an Earl Grey because that's the beer we were originally going to put in the box, but we were running a little low on stock. But that's just absolutely beautiful beer. I would probably then go through South Knoxville. South Knoxville has an amazing diversity of places to eat and drink. I'd probably have some of the fresh fried pork rinds and spring rolls at Landing House. Absolutely amazing Asian restaurant right on the South waterfront. I'd stop by and see my good buddy Adam at Alliance and listen to some Steely Dan. I would come back up. Let's see, the River Otter. So if it was a weekend, probably the Otter Island Pirates would be out doing a float, and I would have had my kayak stashed somewhere out there, do a float with them, and then in the evening I would check out one of the many awesome music venues we have around here. We have an incredibly vibrant live music scene. Obviously, that's been up and down over the last couple of years because as everywhere. But I would check out one of a million amazing live music venues. If I was in the mood for a cocktail, I'd probably stop by Postmodern. And they are an amazing distillery that does all the kind of weird stuff with spirits that we do with beers. Ron, the head distiller there, has been a great friend of mine for many years. And then if I was feeling a little hungry, I'd stop by Chandler's and get me some soul food and call it a day.
Nice. That sounds absolutely perfect. I'm with you. I live in Chattanooga, so I have access to the Tennessee River. Like I was mentioning, I love the outdoorsy kayaking stuff. I kayak 3 times a week. And I went to Turn Club when I was in Knoxville.
Oh, Turn Club's
fun
great,
little kind of tiki bar. I don't really love super sweet cocktails, but they were nice after all the kind of beer I'd been drinking all day, all the sort of bitter hot flavors I was having. And it was a nice little palate refresher.
Yeah, for cocktails. Peter Kern Library is awesome. True speakeasy. You go down an alleyway and there's a doorbell and you ring it and all this kind of stuff. Great vibe, great cocktails there. Really like Turn Club. Love the atmosphere. Love the back patio there. They do some good stuff. But to me, best bang for the buck and the most interesting stuff again is Postmodern.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out. Postmodern. All right, Aaron, as we wrap up here, it is time for our rapid fire questions. The key is to not think, just answer. Fan of lactose in beer, yes or no?
Generally no.
Hops, Cascade or Mosaic?
Mosaic. Sorry.
Mosaic. Okay.
Yes.
Home brewing or home drinking?
Home brewing.
What about a favorite beer to drink while you're watching television?
I don't really watch TV. If I was, it would be it'd be an English bitter.
Yeah. Favorite German beer?
I really love a Helles, but my absolute that would be the one I would drink. I got to go for the Bamberg Rausch beers, man. Like, there's nothing else on earth like them. So yeah, I mean, yeah, a Rausch beer, yeah.
I agree. That is one of the most unique. There is nothing like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. You're so fun. You've been a wealth of knowledge. Is there anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're, so a couple things, if you're ever coming through Knoxville, check us out. We've got 2 locations. We've got our west location, which is our 15 barrel more production facility. And then we got downtown, which is our 3 barrel like fun funk house. And we have a full barrel aging program downtown. And so we've got all different kinds of sours, generally like bottle conditioned, generally have 2 different ones on tap at all times, and all the funky, weird stuff, all kinds of cool events going on. And, but just to, they both kind of go both ways. So there's like some of the funky stuff makes it out to the big place, and a lot of the standards obviously come back downtown as well. So yeah, I mean, just, if you're ever in Knoxville, check us out. We have a bevy of to-go options and things like that. We do not distribute outside of Knox County. Don't really have any desire to do so, but it's fresh, it's local, it's awesome, it's unique. Yeah. If you're ever down this way, check us out.
Awesome. Love it. Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in today. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, Mike, my great guest, Aaron. Be sure to tune in next week as we chat with Matthew Cummings, owner at Pretentious Glass Co. and Pretentious Beer Co. We're going to go in depth and talk about beer glassware. We're going to be drinking the Belgian Double Brown Ale from our friends at Elst Brewing. And let me tell you, if you did not consider beer glassware to be a work of art, you will after talking with Matthew. He had some of the most unique glasses I have ever seen, including one that actually spun around with the beer in it. Plus, the glasses are made right there on site next to the brewery. Fresh beer and fresh glasses. It's a thing. Cheers, y'all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's always a blast having a beer with you. Don't forget to sign up for the Brews Less Traveled Beer Club, and this way you'll get the beers I've been drinking delivered right to your doorstep, plus exclusive access to our weekly live streams. You can also follow Brewvana on Instagram and me as well at Molly_Brews Less Traveled. I always love hearing from you guys, especially if it's a beer recommendation. So keep the messages coming. Cheers.